Thank you very much.
Now we're
We're
going
now
to
going to
turn
move on.
to Sri Lanka. So, President Wickremesinghe, you are in a somewhat special situation. We move now to a middle-income country. The coordination challenges are maybe greater in the sense that you are not subject to the common framework. We just heard that this was an important instrument in the case of Chad. The official creditor committee has been formed with Paris Club and non-Paris Club members. I understand that India's decision to participate and co-chair this creditors gathering is a major milestone. So what is your view about the restructuring process, and what do you consider to be the main bottlenecks? We've already heard from the president of Chad that we need to reduce bureaucracy. I'm sure that we all agree on that. Simplification is sometimes the most complex thing to achieve. But we're very interested to hear your experience in this regard.
When Sri Lanka was declared bankrupt, as MIC, we were not eligible under the common framework for debt restructuring. We had limited access to concessionary financing, and there was a complete loss of external financing. Therefore, Sri Lanka's response was to take ownership of this program, both for debt restructuring as well as the economic restructuring needed for growth. Then we negotiated our conditionalities with the IMF and the creditors. So it's like we were working on a menu. The argument of what are the items that should get on and what are the items that could be taken off. I think we had agreement actually to about 90% of the items. So we own it as much as the IMF is. Of course, we had two exceptional situations. One is that India came to our help, and that was nearly $4 billion available when no other source of funding was available. Secondly, through the World Bank and the ADB, we went through the process of reverse graduation. So the gain became entitled to concessionary funding. But from the time we declared ourselves bankrupt, it was a delay on bureaucracy on both sides. We delayed, and if we had funding by May, the upheavals of July could have been avoided. But anyway, we had the upheavals of July. We went in immediately as it settled down. By September, we had a staff level agreement, but it took us another 6 months for agreement to come before we got any monetary assistance. So we undertook significant economic reform that imposed pain on the population, but without any predictability. Now this is the problem we have. And I would say, given the increasing vulnerabilities facing middle-income nations, MIC's access to concessional financing must be viewed from a broader perspective, which should be automatic and timely under an agreed criteria, if you fulfill the criteria. Secondly, I'd agree, President Achad, if I knew we could have done it much faster, I would have told Maldives to invade our country. At least you could have got the money much faster. But we followed it up. We did the debt. The staff level agreement came last September. By November, we had the climate prosperity plan, which we announced at COP27. Now, it's been followed up by Sri Lanka's growth agenda for a highly competitive green economy. So our financial needs, both official and private, has virtually quadrupled. So that's the problem others also have to face. Then I would say, following the conclusion of negotiations with the IMF and the successful approval of the EFF, we have had no roadmap to follow regarding the next phase of debt restructuring. So before we can get the next tranche from the IMF. So it's a question of us now mapping the road out. But I would like to certainly point out a few of the experiences. The data-led approach was the key to our success. It was our program, not an IMF program. Secondly, we found sponsor for us among the official creditor community. That helps. Thirdly, you have to be very pragmatic when you are implementing this. I am not sure that a binding framework like the common framework would have rendered the process quicker or more efficient. The approach for a middle-income country would be to move. If you have a common framework, what happens is we move as fastest as the slowest creditor. So we get tied down. So that's why we're not in favor of a common framework. We were able to create traction with the most committed creditors, raising the general quality and efficiency of the process. Because we are still frustrated by the lack of process. The cost for us, economic and social, has been very high. Now, as far as the creditors, our creditors include the Paris Club and the non-Paris Club members, of which India and Hungary, India and China are two of our main creditors, Japan from the Paris Club. So we've attempted and to establish an ad hoc platform for the official creditors, including the Paris Club members and others. India, Hungary, others came on to this to participate in the ad hoc platform. China participated as observers. We shared the information with all parties on an open transaction, transparent process. Then I must thank IMF. With the intervention of the IMF and Sri Lanka's coordination, we are dealing with both groups. So what else helped us was that Sri Lanka had ongoing negotiations with Japan,